Welcome to the podcast of All Means All. In this episode, Cynthy Haihambo and Zeynep Karaosman will talk about sex and gender education.
What do you mean by comprehensive sexuality education?
Comprehensive sexuality education is a concept that is used all over the world, but it means different things for different people in different parts of the world. For us, however, it's basically about education that is provided to the youth in order to empower them and provide them with readiness for living meaningful lives. Many people, young people, go into life really uninformed about values and attitudes and even issues related to their own human body, how they relate to their body, and how other people relate to them. And therefore, they need comprehensive sexuality education to be better prepared to manage their own lives and manage how they relate and socialize with other people.
Why do we need comprehensive sexuality education in our classroom?
Sexuality is an integral part of human life, and children and young people have the right to receive science-based and reliable information so that they can learn about their body, healthy relationships, consent, and body image, as well as puberty anatomy. For that, we need comprehensive sexual education because its content goes beyond reproduction and biology. It includes also emotions, health relationships, consent, gender orientation, gender equality. And why we need comprehensive sexual education in the classroom is, simply because it helps us prevent and combat against sexual abuse, combat sexual abuse against children, sexual exploitation, violence, and of course by providing factual and non-stigmatizing information about gender and gender identities, gender orientation. It helps us prevent and combat homophobia, transphobia, and of course it can help us save lives in this sense. Also, it is important in the sense of creating a safer place for all the school community, because the more students get to know about other identities, diversity, they get to know how to relate or how to connect with other students.
What should we teach in CSE?
It's a difficult question because in different parts of the world there are different priorities in relation to CSE, or Comprehensive Sexuality Education. But in most cases, we teach CSE under three main domains. One being personal life, where we teach young people about their own body, their own culture, traditions, and how they perceive themselves, and that includes things of self-image and self-esteem. And then there's the domain of values, which kind of relate to the first one, that covers about what are the values of my society and my community, what makes me a good person, and how do I relate to other people. And we make them aware of the fact that I might have my own values, but if my values interfere with the rights of other people around me, then I might need to review my values. And then the last domain, in most cases, would have to do with citizenry, being a good citizen, and that is important specifically for a group of on gender and sexuality, because one of the important things in the world is inclusivity, and that has to do with human rights, human dignity, and how we respect other people, whether they share the same values as us or not. So it's wide, but in communities where you have many issues related to child abuse or gender-based violence, your priority most likely will be on those issues. And where you have inequalities based on poverty and sexual identity, etc., you might want to put emphasis on those. But basically, it's mainly those three domains, and it depends from setting to setting the order in which they will be taught in CSE.
What should we keep in mind when preparing CSE materials?
Comprehensive means intersectional, as we said before. It is about connecting race, ethnicities, class, sexual orientation, and so on. And it's on us to work on bridging the gaps in our curricula. So all our students see themselves and their experiences as represented during this during sexual education. And therefore, it is essential to keep that in mind while preparing our materials. It should go beyond white-centered, cisgender and heteronormative perspective. That is very crucial. And of course, we must make sure to include different body size, body image, abilities, ethnicities, and gender presentations in our materials. They should be age appropriate when we are teaching. The first grade is totally different than 5th, 6th grade. And they should be easy to understand. The language, should be easy. Because we should also consider the students that are maybe coming from different background, like immigrant students or students with special needs. So they should be really easy to understand, and maybe when it is possible, less language-based. And of course, as we said, not only the material should be easy to understand for special education needs kids, but also they should be represented, their body should be represented. So it's not just abled bodies. Another important point is also our materials should be based on truth-based resources, scientific resources, because we are talking about many stuff that have actually in the society the society has a lot of assumptions and bias. So it's very important to support our materials with the resources.
What role does diversity play in CSE?
Diversity is actually the key point in CSE. As Zeynep has rightly said, CSE should be offered in a way that is inclusive of everybody, and that everybody finds themselves and their identity within what is being taught. The more we include all children or all young people, their backgrounds, their values, their cultures, their religion, the better, because then they will be able to relate to what they are being taught. So diversity is about human rights. Diversity is about acknowledging that everybody matters, and every child indeed matters. If we do not diversify our methodology, our material, our topics, we will not be able to reach the young people that we want to reach. The moment a child with special educational needs see that I'm never included in whatever the teacher is saying, everybody, they represent someone else, then they will definitely shut down. And our aim with CSE, as we have said in the beginning, is to reach everybody and to provide them with skills and attitudes that they need for life. And if we do not diversify, definitely we exclude, and that is definitely against our objective.
Why does LGBTQI+ inclusion in CSE matter?
Sexuality education that focuses on mostly or just straight and heteronormative or hetero young people, straight young people, automatically exclude LGBTQI plus students in the room. And many LGBTQI plus young people do not learn what healthy relationship is or what safe sex looks like, might look like for themselves in their cases, because they were basically not provided with the relevant information in the sexuality education they received, or they were not represented at all. And at the same time, because of LGBTQI plus exclusion, straight cisgender students in the classroom, they also are deprived from the basic information they need to have when they are building relationship with queer people. And already the heteronormative society is giving society a lot of false assumptions, biases about queer people. So also it is very important not only for queer people in the classroom, but also for the straight cis gender students, so they can get rid of those assumptions, these biases. They know how to interact with their peers. They know how to advocate for them also. That's why it is impossible to talk about inclusivity, diversity without making sure that we are talking also about queer people.
And I would like to add to that point the fact that if the whole class, because inclusivity is really about the whole group, and if a certain group is excluded, for example the LGBTQ plus group, the rest of the members in the class do not learn to respect their views and their values, and that they are as important as everybody else. They tend to perpetuate the whole positioning of minority and looking down and criticizing and bullying, because they have not been taught in a safe space how to respect everybody and how to advocate for the rights of the other group. So again, we just want to emphasize that it is about the whole group inclusivity.
Yeah, definitely. And also we should know that there might be students in our classroom that are still not sure about their orientation. So it also gives them space to explore and gives them the information they need.
How can we as educators create a safe space for everyone?
Educators are key in creating a safe space. And one of the main reasons for the acknowledgement that educators are key is if the educator does not establish from the beginning the fact that everybody is important, everybody matters, and everybody's dignity should be protected, the whole comprehensive sexuality education fails. And educators have a responsibility towards everybody else, and as a facilitator of comprehensive sexuality education, they should make sure that they rule out issues like breaching of confidentiality. They need to go into contracts with the learners in a form of a discussion. For example, to tell the learners in the class that whatever we disclose in this space of ours remains here and is not to be shared with other people outside. We are not going to laugh and bully other people because they are different from ourselves and so on. All these emotional issues are part of a safe space, and it is the responsibility really of the educator. we mostly come across educators who have never received comprehensive sexuality education themselves and who also do not agree with certain elements of comprehensive sexuality, and they fail to create that space because they don't know. And it's important for educators to be educated through trainer programs, so that by the time they come into the space of being an educator, they have overcome their own fault lines and their own biases with regard to comprehensive sexuality education. If not, they really do more damage than good for the group, and again, that defeats our purpose for comprehensive sexuality education. And then the issue of space is not only emotional, it's also physical, the physical space in which you find yourselves, and you making sure that learners are comfortable within the space, whether they're sitting on chairs or whether they're sitting on the floor. Is it an environment that they can relate to? Are they happy to be there? Are there group activities that make sure that they as a group bond and share values and respect and things like that? So for me, it is very key that the educator is prepared and trained in order to do the right thing so that they do not defeat the purpose of comprehensive sexuality education.
Yeah, and I also want to add that when we talk about safe space, we think about a place that is like a bubble, like no bullying, no discrimination, nothing happens there. Actually, that is impossible, unfortunately. So what we need to do is to create as safe as possible, that like for the kids, for the students, and not only for the students, for also ourselves. We are also part of it. So we shouldn't just put that pressure on ourselves as educators that we have to create a place that no kid will be ever bullied or discriminated. We should be observing all the time. We should know how to act in this kind of situations. So the students also know that, okay, that might happen to me, but I know where to go. I know that it is not going to be just me and my feelings. So that is also a part of our job. So, and the other thing is, of course, giving space is a safe space, or safer space, let's say. We should also let students, okay, that is too much for you, this is very intense for you, you can just have a break. That's also possible. Just go out and have some time and come back. So, because that topic, sex and gender education, it is not like something we as educators or students are used to. It's not like math class or other classes. So they are about us, about our bodies, about our feelings. That's why it is very important to give the space to the student when that's too much, when that's too intense. That's also part of creating a safer place for the students and for us.
And also, as we said earlier, we have to kind of work out how do we create a safer space for all forms of diversity. For example, a safe space for a child with a physical disability is not the same as for a child with a mental disability or cognitive disability. So as an educator, we have to keep all these elements in mind, and it gets easier when learners can relate to us and they feel free to tell us that I don't feel comfortable, or that comment that you have made or that you allowed someone to make and you didn't defend me made me feel unsafe. So part of it is us enabling the environment so that learners are free to tell us, because as educators we might assume that if we give children mats to sit on and we tell them about this, everybody feels safe. it might not necessarily be the same, because we have to keep this diversity in mind all the time.
How can we use language to open communication?
In the classroom, when it comes to the topic of sex and gender education, or like this topic, as educators, we always encounter with the students that are avoiding to use some words, for example, or avoiding to express themselves, being part of the class, so not communicating about it. And when we think about the reasons, it's mostly, again, about the taboos and the assumptions, bias, fear, the shame, prejudice, all these kind of emotions. So we as educators should be confident and should represent with our language that it is okay, it is so normal to talk about our bodies, about our relationships, about our emotions. When we sound very confident, very straightforward, and when we give the impression with the language that we use to the students that, okay, there is no judge here, and I can express myself, I can ask questions easily, then automatically it is for the students also, okay, that is normal to use. So normalizing is maybe like the language that we use is very important when the students, because the students convey everything, get the message. When I use the words like, not like directly with confidence, and then it is also like, okay, I shouldn't use it maybe in public. So this is very important. And of course, to use the accurate words, correct words, like not the words that are used because it is actually shame, it is actually not okay to say, for example, let's say penis, vagina, vulva, but to put some other cute words for that. You know, in every language, I think it exists, that kind of replacements. And we should make sure that, okay, these words are the normal one. We don't use another words for our arm. We just say arm. So this is also a body part. So I think it takes time in the beginning, especially with kids like teenagers or like 11, 12 years old. But then, like after 1 hour in the class, you just see that, oh, okay, they're also using it now, because they just like realize that it's totally okay. Of course, the other important thing is, again, about queer people. Many educators assume that, okay, all my students in the classroom are hetero. I don't have any queer students. That's impossible. So we should always use the language that, like, we should always pay attention to our language, especially in sex and gender education, to make sure that it is inclusive. So we should always assume that there are queer people in the class, and so I should use my word. I shouldn't always gender, or I shouldn't always assume that it is boy or it is girl. This is also very important, especially for the students who are not out to themselves or to other class members. So they should feel also be represented in the language that teacher use. Of course, we should remember that no two kids are same, neither their needs. So we should also include the needs of every student coming from different culture, different background. Sometimes we already talked about the easy language part, but also sometimes we should replace the word, like when it is not in English, like the class is in German, let's say, but the resource or the word is in English. And we can't just like think that, okay, the kid will understand that. So maybe we need to sometimes replace it with the correct definition in the mother tongue of the student, if it's possible.
What are the challenges we might face during CSE?
We have kind of touched on some of the challenges already. One challenge is mainly about CSE facilitators themselves who are not well equipped with the necessary language and tools to deliver CSE. And as we've alluded to in the beginning, it's a wide field. We've talked a lot about sex and gender issues because that is part of the most challenging part in comprehensive sexuality education. It is more complicated than career choices and citizenry, for example, when to apologize when I've offended someone. Those are easy. The challenge really has to do with the issues related to the actual sexuality in the body, even the physical part of the body, issues such as menstruation, masturbation, just puberty, human development issues. Some educators find it very, very difficult. And this issue has actually become a school issue and become important for it to be offered in schools because as parents, we also are very uncomfortable teaching learners about these issues of the body, issues of sexuality, and how people relate to one another, how they experience joy in relationships, etc. So one of the main challenges is, do we have the tools to deal with these issues? And as schools and as education spaces, do we offer comprehensive sexuality education in a way that will bring us closer to society, closer to the trust of the community? Can the society trust that we can do it in an effective way, or will we push parents to say, no, I'm moving my child from that school because the teacher said they can use a condom? Stuff like that. So it's really, the challenge is that bridge between us as education institutions, as schools and society, and us trying to gain the trust of the society in the way we deliver comprehensive sexuality education. And in most cases, parents do not approve and they also do not provide the comprehensive sexuality education that the young person needs. So the young people are really left somewhere midway. They do not receive the information from home. The home also does not want to provide, does not want the school to provide this information. And that's why we think it's important that we develop materials that are easy to use for educators themselves, to empower them, for young people so that they can empower themselves or can be guided through the material. And we also at another level want to move into how can we help parents help the young people as they move from childhood to adolescence, right into adulthood.
How can we be more inclusive of children from different cultural backgrounds?
So children coming from different backgrounds, different cultures, especially the conservative ones that are that refuse to get the education, or they are told to refuse to get sexuality education, gender education. That's one of the handicaps and a challenge, let's say. And how can we include the students? We have a huge role as educators because we prepare the materials, we prepare the content, and our material, our content should be also prepared according, should be prepared to meet the needs of the students. The language variety is very important, or to get support from the NGOs is very important, or offering workshops, extra workshops for parents, maybe also with their kids or just the kids, is very important. So to provide more resources. And it's also important to make it very normal for the other students too. So it is not just like, okay, the students from different backgrounds, they have the problem. No, that doesn't exist. It is not like that. So it is okay to ask any question, and there is no shame in it. So the students should know, okay, we are all learning and we all have different needs, different questions in our minds. So it's okay when the other kid asks that question. The other important thing is, of course, to make them represented and also respected by other class members, by other adults in the school, we can say, and reflecting cultural, social, and ethnicity diversity is important. As an example, I can tell, like, when one of the students in our school first refused to get that, to attend sexual education program in the school, the reason was, obviously, this is not something that I should learn. I'm too young for that. And then there was the mom next to him, and he was telling to mom, yeah, okay, I don't want to go, just tell them that you're not sending me. And the mom didn't say that. And as a person who is coming from the same cultural background with that mom, so as a POC woman, I was not like just the educator, but also sharing the same values. I just talked to the mom about how important it is. I know it is a taboo. I know that it is not like very common in our culture, but I really feel the lack of it. I have felt the lack of that knowledge in my life, and that is the contents that we are talking about in the classroom, and that's why it is important. And then she understood that it was totally okay. And then I just gave a thought about it. I was like, what if a person, an educator with totally good intention, but totally, or like just white German woman said that to that parent, how it would be? Would she really understand it, or would she be offended? So I think it's really important to get the help from the NGOs, from the people, organizations that help or that work in this kind of topics with especially immigrants or with different cultures. That's a huge help, support for educators, for students, and for parents.
And I think it's also important for the educators, facilitators to understand, to try, go that extra mile to gain an understanding on the different cultural diversity in their school, in their class, and not only about culture, but also, as we have said, about special educational needs that learners have, and allow the learners the space to talk about their backgrounds and their cultures and their limitations and the good things in their culture. That way the educator will be in a better position to manage the diversity than if they just stick to one homogeneous way and believing that after lesson 1 or lesson 2, everybody's now at the same pace. It's impossible. You always have to work on those kind of relationships to the diversities that the learners come with. And sometimes it's something as simple as religion, that one learner in the whole class is Muslim, the rest are Christian, and one does not believe in anything else, and so on and so on. And we cannot ignore that one, because if we ignore that one person who's different, we are going to lose them. And as a facilitator, the teacher should know what are the values, what are the belief system of that one learner, and how do I bring them into the picture so that we are all at least know that we are not at the same level, but we respect that kind of diversity.
Yeah, we should be expecting these challenges. We should be expecting the questions that would come from, or the reactions from the students that are totally away, like culturally or from the family background, that against that topic or away from that topic. We should be expecting that, and then we should prepare ourselves. We should prepare our reactions. So we shouldn't be surprised, oh, I was not expecting a student to say, in our family we don't talk about sex. That's going to happen. So how should we react? We should, or how should we keep the conversation later? These are the things that we should also think and be prepared for.
Thank you for listening to the podcast of All Means All. In the show notes, there is a link to the chapter in the open textbook. There you can find the transcript of the video and more information on the topic.